Hello there, Pursuing Freedom friends. Thanks, as always, for tuning in. I'm your host, Erin Bradley. And if it's your first time here, I'm excited for the show today. We've got a topic we've never covered before. And so if you've been listening for a while, well, you're here on the right day because we're going to talk about a really interesting topic around building your digital brand in your real estate business through podcasting, networking, and education. And if you've been following the podcast for some time, you know that that was a significant catalyst in the growth of my business as well as my impact here. And so I want to introduce Kris Reid. He's an Australian entrepreneur and a husband and father of four, founders of Icons of Real Estate, which is also the name of his podcast, Icons of Real Estate. And what he does is he helps real estate professionals grow their business through these different types of mediums. And I'm excited to share with you because I've got a couple people in my community that have started to embark upon using podcasting, YouTube, and education as a way to build their influence. And he leads the #1 real estate podcast network that spotlights top performers and rising stars in the industry that are leveraging digital marketing to build their brand. So I think there's going to be some really good inspiration and actionable takeaways for you, and hopefully an opportunity for you to connect with Kris at some point here in the future. So Kris, with no further ado, give us a little backstory. How did you get into this line of work and what does it look like today? And how are you supporting the real estate world with your platform and services?
Sure. I mean, that was a great introduction there, Erin. Thank you very much. So, yeah, I mean, to a really quick rundown of my backstory, I was a software engineer, moved to London, worked in finance and, making billionaires more money, which, they pay pretty good, so it wasn't too bad. But, I lost my job in the 2008 financial crisis. And I went traveling the world going, what the hell am I going to do with my life? I'm in my 20s, my career's over. I ended up working online and started doing digital marketing, and search engine optimization is what we focused on, and turned out we were pretty good at it. I ended up getting invited to be a guest on a podcast, actually, Reid Gooson's podcast. He has a multifamily show. I didn't know what multifamily was at all back then. And started learning about real estate and went, oh, this is a pretty interesting niche. Yeah, because with SEO, I love the saying that riches are in the niches, even though you know it should be pronounced niches. But I could never pick one because I'm like, well, we can do this for any business, right? It's the same thing. We had this one client, and the first year she was with us, she did $53 million in production, which is not too bad. Next year she did 158 million. The next year she did 621 million. And the year after, a ridiculous 1,066 million in production. And holy moly, this lady is making bank. When real estate is a really good market to be in. And so we 100% focused on real estate. And so SEO is kind of expensive, right? It takes months to implement and costs a lot of money, and the average agent really can't afford that. It's only like the top end agents. And I'm like, well, how the heck do we get to meet these people? And so let's launch our own podcast, and that's where the Icons of Real Estate came from. Because inviting top agents onto a podcast, building relationships with them, and then you start talking business, and you're doing business. Hey, helped Avery grow from 50 million to over $1 billion. You want to see how we do it? And people go, hell yeah, I'd like to do that. Man, this is a really nice way to build a business. And then a few years down the track, one of our clients who was actually on the show, he's a probate attorney in Beverly Hills. He was like, man, I had such a good time on your show. Can you produce a show for me? I'm like, well, we've got all the infrastructure already set up. Sure, why not? And then, another person asked, and another person asked. I went, there seems to be a real demand for that. And I went, wow, this is way easier to sell, way easier to produce, and gets people results so much faster that, that's 100% where our business is focused now. And it's a whole lot of fun because I get to do things like this all day long.
I just want to acknowledge what you shared there in terms of that radical exponential growth and how you leverage the podcast to build relationships, because I've seen this work for real estate professionals in a number of capacities, specifically becoming like the digital mayor in their community, where they start interviewing local business owners and really building their presence in that way, and also providing value to those local business owners by creating a spotlight for them and highlighting them on their show. And you talk about how it was a way for you to build these relationships. And I feel the exact same way, because when I started my podcast in 2018, I had moved to a ski town, and I used the podcast as a way to connect with real estate professionals and potential referral partners in the city an hour and a half away. And it became really fun. But then the byproduct was this exponential growth in the volume of the business. So talk me through some of the ways that you've seen real estate agents leverage a podcast. And you talked earlier about SEO being really expensive for, a rising star who maybe can't afford that right away. So how does this provide a solution, and how do you guide them in the development of the podcast itself, right? A lot of people could be listening and maybe in the back of their mind, they've been thinking about having a podcast, but they A, don't know where to begin, B, don't know how to find guests, on and on, right? It's like the how, right?
So first off, the lady that I mentioned with that exponential growth, her name's Avery Carl from the Short Term Shop. She's based in Tennessee, and she's actually got several podcasts now because she works in Northern Florida as well. So she has real localized podcasts, because that's the beauty with a real estate podcast, right? Is, well, listen to real estate stuff isn't always that interesting, but the people that do listen to it, well, they're the ones that want to buy a house, right? It's not like you don't have to be Joe Rogan and have 100 million people download every episode. It's like if 10 people listen and 3 reach out and 1 buys a house, it's way worth doing, right? But one caveat that people miss all the time is building those relationships. Like as you touched on, like that, I love the saying that your network equals your net worth. And through podcasting, you can build such great referral relationships. We've got plenty of testimonials from clients who, before their podcast has even launched, that they're doing new business, right? Because one of the things that we guide our clients with is we talk to them about who's your best referral partner. So if you're a real estate agent and you get referrals from builders or from mortgage brokers or whatever, they're the people to invite to your podcast. Build those referral relationships. Like our very first client ever, he's a probate realtor in Beverly Hills. And so who's the best person to give him referrals? Well, lawyers that are dealing with death and deceased patients, And so really building those relationships is the best way to grow your business. And that's before your show even gets launched, right? So that's a really big bonanza that most people don't even think about.
You know what else I love about it is that, first of all, it can be a door opener, like you talked about. Secondly, you and I, we connect on a show, we hit it off, maybe 25% of the time, you end up meeting someone, you're like, this person is awesome. We've got to find a way to collaborate. We just became friends in a really easy, organic way. And then the next time, let's say I'm in town, it's like really natural for me to reach out and say, let's grab lunch, let's grab a drink, whatever, because we've already established that rapport in this really cool setting. And what's interesting is the way that it translates to content. And so many realtors and lenders do feel a little bit awkward about just putting the camera on themselves and doing a selfie video and a reel. And so they're sort of hiding as the secret agent, right? And this is an organic way that you and I can record this, and it can turn into content without feeling that awkward energy of being in front of the camera. You know what I mean?
For sure. I mean, I'm terrible at it. Every couple of years I go, okay, I'm going to get good at this Instagram or Facebook or whatever, and I make like 2 posts and go, that is totally not me. I'm not into this. It's works for some people. Most people no. But yeah, exactly. But being on a podcast, having a conversation, that's all it is having a conversation. But there's lots of little snippets of you showing your expertise, and they're the bits you just cut out, and boom, you got all your Instagram reels you need. And it's so much more interesting than posting whatever new listing you have or buy a house. It's pretty boring, but it keeps people top of mind. Gives you good blog content if you're doing stuff for your website, but definitely awesome stuff for your socials, plus your newsletter content. Like it's the best way to make content. It's like usually you're either making content or you're out networking, and podcasting is a great way to do both of those at once, right?
Well, it's also great because you can do it in such a hyper focused way where maybe your Calendly is only open 1 day a week for 4 hours. It's not going to suck the life out of you to record a couple 25-minute conversations in a 4 hour period and have a month's worth of content. You can hand that off and use ChatGPT to turn it into a million different pieces of content that can go out on every platform. So talk us through the process that you take folks through in order to maybe identify that avatar or that the title, et cetera, and then to what extent do you handle the production, the marketing, or I'm not sure exactly what aspects you guys handle.
Just to touch on what you're saying about, like, that's the biggest objection we get from people all the time is like, oh, I'm so busy, because agents are constantly running around doing stuff, and it's like, great, we only work with busy people. We only work with successful people anyway, right? And if you're a successful agent, well, you're probably pretty busy, right? Because you're running from listing to listing. But exactly as you said, it's like you don't, over the summer months when business is really busy and people are going on holidays and stuff, well, you don't need to be doing recordings then. When it's winter and cold and crap, do a whole bunch then. You got a slow day, pack them all in, and then you got recordings coming out the wazoo. But exactly, you do it from your home or your office on your time schedule. It's really great. But if anyone wants to know exactly how we manage a podcast, from absolutely everything, from how we define the guest avatar, how we book guests, how we record the episodes, how we edit the episodes, how we upload stuff, how we make social snippets, the whole gambit. You can just go to our website, which is iconsrealestate.com/framework, and you can download all of it. We got a whole bunch of frameworks on all of those bits I just mentioned, plus our head coach has a video on each one when he'll walk you through it. So if you want to see how we do it, there's the recipe, iconsrealestate.com/framework.
Awesome. So I want to talk about this a little bit. When you talked about when you're identifying who to interview and your ideal referral sources, as a mortgage lender who had relocated an hour and a half away from my marketplace. And like I said, I was able to use it to establish new relationships with real estate agents that could potentially become new friends and eventually, partnerships. And it worked very well. And our volume went from, 26 million when we started to 43 the next year to 60 the next year to 75 the next year and so on. So I can be a testament to the fact that looking back, I remember thinking, to your point, I don't have time for that. This is like a weird passion project or expensive hobby, because I did invest in it to get it produced and out there. I don't know how to do any of that stuff. So I was investing in it. And I remember thinking, this is like separate from my real estate business or my mortgage business. And then looking back, I can see how essentially it became the umbrella brand, because there's something about putting out content that to the person scrolling, it communicates a perception of authority. So when someone sees you online and you're posting podcast interviews and all these other bits of education and resources and value, you're starting to level up your identity in the marketplace as a legitimate advisor or a high level expert and authority in the space. And people start to come to you, and it seems to happen out of the blue. And so I know from my own personal experience how that wove together, and how in hindsight it was the catalyst. Can you share some examples for anyone listening where they're like, this sounds kind of intriguing, and I'm not really sure what my niche is, and how some of your clients have leveraged the podcast? It's funny, I know Avery, so I love that she
Yeah.
was your case study. But yeah, so what are some of the other examples you can share of real estate agents identifying a niche and being able to leverage the podcast to build that authority and attract?
Yeah, sure. So, like, if you look, most podcasts fail. Like, I think that it's something like 90% of podcasts don't get past the third episode. Like, it's crazy. And then it's like another 90% of those don't get past 10. Like, you've been doing this for what, 7-8 years? Like, you're in the top 1% of the 1%. Yeah, so well done for you. But the reason most podcasts fail is that they don't have a plan. Like, if your podcast is driving your business growth, well, you're going to make time for it, right? It's that people don't understand what they're going to do, and so they go at it haphazardly. So that's why we, really take time to understand, well, who's your target audience? Who do you want listening to these people? That's really important to understand, so that you make content that's interesting for them. And as I said before, you don't need to have 100 million people listen to it. If there's a handful of people, like, when you've got a handful of people listening to you and seeing you as an expert, well, that's going to convert to business. But the other part is deciding, who are the guests going to be? Who are those referral partners? And that's the quickest way to get stuff making money, because you can get business happening before you even launch. Because generally, we won't launch a podcast till at least we have like 5 or 6 episodes recorded. And it is kind of hard to get guests on a show. Like the first guest is kind of hard because it's like this show, well, it doesn't exist yet, and so like who wants to make time for that? So we do recommend to our clients. I mean, we handle everything for people from booking their guests to the works, but generally our clients have not been a host before, so they can be kind of nervous. And it is hard to book guests because they don't have a show. So we generally try and push them towards, it's probably best to build content with people that and trust you already, right? So like if you're a realtor and you have a mortgage broker that you like working with, bring them on, and it's like you can deepen that relationship, and make each other feel good, because it works both ways, right? You're providing good content for that person as well, so they like you too, because now they've got stuff to put on their social snippets. Plus they're the one that's doing most of the talking, and so you're making them, well, feel like an expert, right? Because they are an expert in that niche. It's podcasts are not usually grilling. It's like, oh, show us why you're an expert and tell us what you know, right? So it's pretty easy, and that's generally how we start, is work out, well, the easiest way to get content out there, how to build referral partners, and what sort of content you want to be building for your audience.
I love it. I love it so much. One of the things we talk a lot about in the community is the book by Benjamin Hardy, Who Not How. And it's coming to mind right now because I think how often daydreams go to die because people get stuck on how. And it's fun to have you on the show, because if someone's ever considered what it might look like to have a podcast, and then they have a million question marks on how, and where do I begin, and how do I find people, and how would anybody even listen, and all this stuff. And it's like, to have an opportunity to connect with somebody who can offer a plug and play system with a proven track record, that's the key. It's the same with outsourced marketing or outsourced transaction management. When a real estate professional feels overwhelmed, and the thought of adding one more thing followed by how is so overwhelming, they won't even entertain the pipe dream, right? And so this is where plug and play is so valuable. So what you're offering, and to your point, like, I don't know what the investment or the structure is with you, but I always encourage people not to think about what it costs, but what is it costing you not to? Like, what is the opportunity cost if you have a pipe dream of getting some content out there that could potentially double, triple, quadruple, 10x your business with less effort and more ease, and have fun doing it. You're meeting cool people.
Yeah.
So it's really neat. So apart from your website, how else can folks find you, follow you, get a hold of you?
And that's the best place to do it. Icons of Real Estate. If you Google the #1 real estate podcast network on the planet, you will get all of our stuff. You can see on there we've got a whole bunch of our clients on there as well. One thing that we're launching really soon, it's not quite ready, is a guesting hub, because we have, well, a lot of podcasts and we're looking for a lot of guests as well. So it's a place where you can create an account, you make a profile, make yourself look real good, and then go through all the podcasts that we have to be able to, well, pitch to be a guest. So that's going to come soon, but it's not quite ready yet. But if you jump on our mailing list, you'll be updated as soon as it comes out.
Cool. Call on me. That sounds pretty neat.
We will indeed, Erin.
Well, Kris, thank you so much for your time today. It's been great. And I hope that it leaves somebody listening inspired. And hey, guys, if this is something that's kind of an inkling in the back of your mind and it feels potentially overwhelming, I promise you it's so much less effort than you could possibly imagine. And it's actually energizing. Like, I'm having this conversation with Kris. I'm going to leave this call and go to my next one, and I'm bringing a different frequency than what I started with. So I would encourage you to explore it. Reach out to Kris if you're curious. Reach out to me if you're curious. And as always, if you're loving this content, make sure you stop what you're doing and leave that 5-star review, because it's going to help us continue to attract amazing guests like Kris, who's calling in all the way from Valencia, Spain right now, by the way, and helps this content get found. So as always, I love you. I appreciate you, and I'll see you next time.